Welcome, golf fans, pursuers of knowledge in the Almighty Dollar. This is your golf guru bringing you the WGC Dell match play. This is going to be my preview show. I'm going to be giving you the picks, the bets, tons of information, strategy, a lot we have to cover. I kind of waited till the bracket came out, and then I was able to go through all the groupies. And so I've got everything for you that you're going to need to go ahead and fill out your bracket, do your DFS lineups, and also get those bets in. So with that said, thank you for stopping by. Give me about 30-45 minutes. I'll get you through all this information and let's go talk a little golf. So I'd be remiss if I did not recap the Valspar because it was kind of different, right? I mean, it was another tournament that wasn't the strongest field, but man, there was still some intrigue definitely coming in at the end. And you probably don't know who this guy is, but I've talked to him to you guys quite a bit with all my showdown play. He was kind of a guy that I've been playing since the start of the year. Taylor Moore, of course, had a ton of success in college and on the Korn Ferry Tour. And then out of nowhere, boom, he kind of, I want to say backdoors into a win, but a little bit, right? He was not the focus on anybody's radar. He was coming in, I believe, 50-1 in the odds boards. And of course, you could also say that with Adam Schenk. We'll talk quite a bit about that. But the guy, they didn't show a lot of coverage of that, which is kind of amusing that, they would kind of pop over and say, oh, look at this great shot he hit. And then they go back to, of course, the Jordan Spieth, Adam Schenk, and Fleetwood kind of drama. And then lo and behold, they probably feel a little dumb on the coverage because this guy ends up winning. So let's talk a little bit about the tournament, starting kind of back. Of course, I always go with kind of the shockers. And I don't think this was a shocker. I did not pick him. But Matthew Fitzpatrick, right, has not been in good form. We're still trying to figure out the neck. But, I got to watch it a lot on the PGA Live. And this guy was spraying the ball all over. I think there he's showing the ball going into the water. But, of course, I'd say out of the top four guys that, most expensive from a DFS side, of course, he didn't make the cut. I believe he ended up shooting 3 over after all said and done. The cut was at +1. And then out of nowhere, this kind of was not a good start to the tournament for quite a few of us. I think he was only owned like 5% overall in the large GPP DFS game. But somehow Matthew NeSmith had a back issue, and I'm guessing he was on the range. Or maybe he felt it the day before, was trying to see how it was going to feel. But, everything locked, people teed off. And then I think he had an afternoon tee time. And it came out somewhere, I think, around 10 a.m., 11 o'clock that Matthew NeSmith withdrew from the tournament, which I think I only put in 7 lineups into the large GPP. I saved it for the betting side. I saved it also and played a lot of showdown. And a lot of that was when I see a field that what we had, and I knew that there was going to be quite the volatility. And also as a Valspar, like I said, I wanted to save some money for this week. I wanted to save for the Masters we got coming up. So long story short, it didn't crush me, but it definitely, I think I had him in 3 lineups out of that 7. And I had one really nice lineup that would have probably been top 100 minimum in the large GPP if Mr. NeSmith, but who knows what he would have done. He could also missed a cut. But then, of course, I mentioned the drama that was unfolding going into the last few holes of the Valspar, right? It looked like Spieth. I bet you a lot of people, I think he was 50% owned in the large game for showdown. And funny enough, he was the guy that I was fading. He just seems like he just has that up and down round still. And he had a really nice round the day before on Saturday. And still the putter makes me nervous, which we saw at least on the 18th. But I don't know how much he was focused on that. But, I mean, his putting was definitely better. He played great golf. But, of course, this is him on 16 pointing that his ball's going into water. And that was pretty much the end of Jordan Spieth. I mean, he still had a shot if he could have birdied on 18 to get into a playoff, I believe. But then I ended up, I think, double bogeying it because he missed that little short 3-footer. And then my buddy Adam Schenk, this kind of stung, right? So you guys saw I had quite a few long shots. He was one of them that ended up making the cut. I think it was 110-1. And I just kind of like Adam on what I've seen is on Bermuda for whatever reason. Typically does, putts well there. But of course, this is on 18. Worst case scenario, he hits one of the worst drives that he's had all week and gets right up on the tree here. He's got to roll the club over. And, it's funny, you heard the conversations, which if you were watching the tournament, he was talking to his caddy and they were very unsure. They're going to take it unplayable. And then finally he said, I'm going to do this. And he didn't think he could even get it back to the fairway, which was only maybe 20 yards from where he was at, but he actually put it across, got in the rough, and then as like Jordan, ended up short of the hole down on that ledge, and then they both missed their putts and bogeyed the hole, which then allowed Mr. Taylor Moore to win the tournament at 10 under. So it was, like I said, it was cool that there was still drama. I mean, also we had the weather things where, really cold mornings, which affect some scoring. For showdown, you had to have KH Lee. you had to have Burns, and you had to have Taylor Moore, and I'm forgetting a guy that also that I had. Oh, EVR, Eric Van Ruin, who I hit top 10. And I tweeted out, I did hit some bets. I had Adam Schenk first round leader and hit that. I also, I think he tied, though. I forgot who tied reduction him. It doesn't matter now. But I also hit EVR top 10 a couple different ways. And I hit Taylor Moore. I bet him Saturday night, though. As I was building my showdown teams, I was looking at guys that I was going to play in showdown and thought, I don't have 100% trust in Spieth or Adam Schenk, and I thought he could come back. I even, had a live bet on Burns. I think he was 80-1. This was on like Friday, which he did give it a run. If he could have done a little more on Saturday, he could have three-peated. All right, last thing I'll talk about, if you're curious how these guys did from a stroke gain analysis for the 4 days, you'll notice the ones that are starred were my picks in my top 20. So, we had Spieth, Fleetwood. I kind of mentioned that would be my top 2 guys in. We had Clark, who's been playing great golf. Matty Wallace, who, I bet, talked to you guys. I think he was 250-1. So that'd have been real nice if he could have done that. And then Nick Taylor. And then I think also was it Will Gordon and Dylan Fratelli were my others. So Will Gordon, he made the cut. I think he ended up like 1 under or something like that after all said and done. And Fratelli missed the cut. So those hopes and dreams were dashed. But anyways, like I said, it would have been nice if Schenk would have hit at 110-1. But if you bet Taylor Moore, you're happy because 50-1 is like a huge hit the way things have been running from a betting side on golf. Okay, enough of that. The last thing I'll say is, pretty standard. I mean, good on irons is what we were looking at. Good with the putter. Hard to figure that one out. Who's going to have that really good putting outing? Of course, you can see Schenk here, made that 71-foot bomb. It was his longest putt ever recorded on PGA Tour to make that. And I think that was like on 14 or 15. I forget now. But I mean, the guy deserved it. I mean, he made a ton of good plays. Just one bad break on the worst time. Kind of a little bit like Mito Pereira at the PGA when he drove it in the water. Just one of those things, right? I mean, the grip probably gets a little tighter. And, typically Schenk, his shot is a draw. And if you hit the draw, typically you can overdraw it, and which turns into what I call the power fade, a hook. So, all right, enough on that. Let's get on to why you are here and talk about the WGC Dell match play. Of course, we are now kicking off the Texas swing, and it is starting in Austin, Texas, and it's at the Austin Country Club, which makes total sense. The WGC Dell match play has been here since 2016. There's been other varieties of this. I actually kind of prefer the older days of first round knockout, kind of like what we've been watching in March Madness, where you play one day on Wednesday, and it was like Super Wednesday where, 64 guys played and 32 came out of it. But of course, if Tiger didn't, make it, or whoever the big guys that got knocked out, then the fans and the people that came to the event and people on TV, all that stuff, it got poo-pooed. And now, of course, we got this pool play, which we're going to dive into all that, what that means. But yeah, before, like I said, I think it was also at Dove Mountain, but there's been a few different courses where this has been held at. But since 2016, which I believe is the year Jason Day actually won this thing, if memory serves me correct. Just side note. All right, Architects course, we're at another Pete Dye course. We just saw TPC Sawgrass. We'll be see Harbor Town for RBC Heritage. I believe that'll be right after the Masters, if I remember correctly. And it is a par 71. It's just over 7,100 yards. And it is a pure, I think, plotter, strategic, kind of navigate your way around the course. What does that mean? We need guys that hit fairways, great with irons, and super short game, and awesome putters, especially inside 10 feet. This is a total different mindset, right? I mean, it's always, you're always playing the course. No, that is not what you're doing here in match play. It is a grind. It is, you are playing each hole against your competitor to beat that competitor. You're going to do different things depending on what he does. And it's a back and forth. There's a lot like watching a football game or something. You'll watch momentum swings as the 18 holes go on, if they make it 18 holes. So it's a very unique and a huge fan of it. I wish we had more of it, to be honest. Long story short, it's all Bermuda, but because of this tournament being in Austin, Texas at this time of the year, they've had to do a ton of oversea with POA. Still Bermuda, you're going to notice there's a lot of dormant Bermuda at this time of year. So you're going to see browned out rough, and you're going to see all the green fairways. Rough still coming in what I got at least from the superintendent sheet, which it looked exact as last year. So I'm not sure if they've updated this, but the rough's coming in at 2 inches, and we are on Tiff Eagle Bermuda, which we've seen quite a bit in the Florida swing. And we've got a player field of 64 players, which then breaks down into 16 pods. So that's how it all starts off. Pool play, you could call it whatever it is. And those top of those pods are seeded by world ranking. So, of course, Scotty Scheffler #1. Then it works out that way. John Rahm will be #2. And past winners, of course, Scotty Scheffler last year beat Kisner 4-3. Pretty much just owned that final. I never saw really there was any question that Kisner was going to beat him, but I did have Kisner. I think I definitely picked him last year, but I am not picking him this year. I'll let you in on that. I've told you guys his game on all fronts is a disaster. Now, he's had the best record here. Horses for courses, I'm a proponent of, but man, you still got to be able to play the game. And without his irons, without being able to make the putts he used to make, I don't see how this all going to get turned on going here, but we'll talk about that more. Been a very profitable tournament for me, maybe a little bit why I like the Dell match play, but I was probably the only one that was on Billy Ho the previous year in 2021 when he defeated Scotty Scheffler. Scotty kind of mentioned he was quite a bit burned out at that time. He's had to work on working, on his endurance and all that. So I remember that kind of talk, but he beat him 2-1. And if you watch it on the YouTube highlights or round highlights, like Billy Ho really didn't play that good at golf. It's just Scotty was kind of driving it all over, wasn't making some putts. Billy Ho, as Billy Ho does, had some chip ins and, just kind of luck sack. And then, of course, Pryor, Kisner defeats Kuchar, and then Bubba defeats Kisner. So you can see Kisner quite a bit over the last 4 years has always kind of been in contention. And Kisner's game, he loves his course. It is a perfect fit from a course fit. But how do you just chuck away what his game's been? I think he ended up 6 to 8 over at the Valspar. You've got a ton of sand on this course, 110 sand bunkers. You got a lot of water, 7 holes come into water. Mostly that kind of comes into play as they work their way down. And we're going to talk about the course is really, I believe, 2 different nines. It's kind of unique. The Stimpmeter runs about 12 fast to lightning. And I've already looked at the weather, and they're going to be having wind. And typically at this event, I think in 2021, it was really windy. But every year in Austin, Texas, they get wind. So wind and water, as you guys know, firm and fast. With that added in, it's going to be still pretty difficult. You got some tough, long par threes. You got elevation changes here. Because literally when you play the front, you're kind of elevated, but you're into trees. And then as you work your way down into where, some of the more, like the hole that you could kind of see behind me here, I believe that's 12. It's a little more open, but of course the wind even gets more involved. Very narrow fairways on the front, and then there's these rock runoffs, so you don't have a lot of room to miss it at all. And if you do miss it, it's gone, and you're gonna have to take a drop where the ball entered over the rocks. Sometimes it hits the rocks. I've seen guys go down the rocks that hit shots, but yeah, it's definitely not about distance. These guys are going to be clubbing down, so nulls their advantage of like a Rory gaining, hit at 340, 350 off the tee and hitting fairways. Because on a lot of these, you're not going to take that driver out, no matter how accurate you are. You could try it, but if you hit it wrong, it's gone, and you pretty much lost that hole. So that's why you see the Kuchars, the Kisners. I mean, Bubba, really had to gain more length, but Billy Ho not long. And then Scotty's just got such a solid all game. And again, you got to remember they're pulling out long irons, driving irons, hybrids. They're not hitting the driver a ton on this course until I feel like, of course, the par fives, and then when you get down to the back 9. All right, past notes I already kind of mentioned. It's really 2 different 9 holes. Of course, we kind of talked about that. I said, the first 9 really fits a plotter, strategic, and then the back 9 kind of goes more to the bombers. But overall, if I had to pick, I'm gonna be sticking towards more guys working their way from the green back. So I want the guys that are great putters, great short game around the green, great irons, and then just hit fairways. Not too distant to what we were talking about for at TPC Sawgrass for the players, or even Valspar with that rough that it was. You got a ton of golf, so whoever wins this thing is possibly going to end up playing 7 matches, 126 holes, so definitely 7 matches, but depending on how it all works out, maybe you crush your guy, you're going to be able to get, less. But long story short, it's a ton of golf. I've always said this, embrace the chaos. Now, some people argue that because it's not the one and done knockout format, that because it's player pool, that the upsets don't still really happen. And I disagree with that. You're going to notice with some of my picks, I do think the upsets still happen, but it is a little different. And what I didn't mention is this is an elevated event. Funny enough, it's only going to be a one time. So not sure where that other elevated event will go to. You're talking 20 million in the prize pool. So if you're playing one and done, you definitely want to use one of your top guys to win this thing. And it's actually, it would have been a good time to save Scotty Scheffler, in my opinion, because the guy owns this place. His game fits. He's also a local to Austin, Texas, and he's only got 63 other guys to beat technically. And really, it's not even that, because you got to look at the field coming out. But it's such a small player pool that you have to beat comparative to the typical 150-ish. Oh, and then I just mentioned watch out for players looking to cash in. And so because this was a no-cut event, technically guys that are not feeling so well could literally play one whole WD and still get a pay, hence Paul Casey. Now, I don't remember Paul Casey even teed it up. I believe this was last year when he pulled out. And it just, a lot of people were picking Paul Casey. I think this is ready. It should have won or could have had a good chance to win. The players at TPC Sawgrass coming into this event, and he's been dealing with back issues. I think he pulled out of this event, and I don't think he played the rest of the year, and then remember jumped to the Live Tour with a bad back and didn't play there forever. So anyways, just side note, how do you pick that? I mean, you could look at like a Fitzpatrick, anybody that's been kind of ailing that we know of, that, or, just they know their game is not good and they just are going to get smoked, that they show up, play a hole and somehow WD. I mean, that's a little hard to predict, but it could happen. Oh, and if you learn anything from me out of this whole thing, because of this format, the actual event starts on Wednesday morning. So again, note to self, March 22nd, first pegging of the tee will be at 10:15 a.m. Eastern, 9:15 local time. So again, starts this Wednesday. So it means that's why I'm trying to get my picks and everything out today, give you guys time. But pretty much you go to bed Tuesday night, you're probably going to have your teams put together by then, hopefully. Okay, real quick, here's a quick layout and map. And what I recommend, if you go and Google YouTube, there is a flyover. I think it's 7 minutes. If I remember, I'll put it in the link below in the YouTube comments. But if you want to see a flyover of the course, but really, like I said, I would guess a lot of people that's probably going to play this have seen it. But you can see one starts here, and this again is all in the trees. And then two, here's that whole rock line I was talking about. So the fairway bends that way too, so you have to kind of hit it up in here. You've got three here. We got some water carry, sand again, some rock wall. So it's a very tight track, 1 through 6, 7, seeing 8, 9. So pretty much 10, you kind of stay in it, 11, and then 12 is where you come out. I believe that's when you see that bridge. Yeah, so here's the bridge, and pretty much 12 on is more where I think leans in favor of the Bombers and the guys that can take advantage, because there's two par fives on this side, only one par five on the front. And so a lot of scoring seems to happen a little bit more on the back than the front. And then here's that number 12, just talking about that par five. Funny enough, that's Fleetwood there. It looks like a practice round, fairway Jesus in it. And then here's another look, an overhead. This is one of the more interesting holes, I believe. Yeah, so this is 12 working down, and then this is 13. I think it's 317 yards, a drivable par 4. And a lot of guys go for it, depending on what the wind's doing, but because literally, the wind's with them, which you could kind of see the flag going this way, they'll literally use this as a backstop. So you're one here, you get your drop, you're chipping, back to here, too, and then, giving yourself a better birdie than where, what I recall is if you try to lay it up here, and these greens are so firm and fast, and it does pitch to the water, there was guys that were pitching it, and it was literally rolling off into the water, and you'll see maybe a bit of that depending on what's going on with the wind and how firm and fast. So side note there. And then this gives you kind of an understanding of like what some of the first holes, like number 2 looks like, where, like I said, there's this rock cliff all the way, and if it goes down in there, I have seen guys on different holes try to get it out, but it's pretty much over. Wherever your ball crosses like a water hazard, that's where you're dropping, and away, you're taking 3. All right, real quick, let's look at the scorecard. But you're going to see the very typical kind of the 6 birdie opportunities, 6 bogey opportunities. We always talk about that. I mentioned you only got 1 par 5 on the front. You got 2 on the back. You can see the finishing 3 holes, which is kind of different, right? This is where a ton of the scoring happens. And so instead of guys, falling apart, typically this is where you got to make it up. If you are behind, you could definitely, if you could birdie the last 3 holes, would not be a shocker in your matches. If you make it that far. I did get this beautiful scorecard. Funny enough, it looks just like this last year, except it just said 2022. But you can see not a whole lot put into the scorecard. But I checked all the yardages. We're all good. Like I said, nothing really to call out. I mentioned the par 4s. I'm sorry, the par 3s are like this 185 to 200. I think they're, except for 17 is shorter. It's 150. And, short par fours, gettable par fives. There's definitely opportunities out there, but I think the front nine, which is very crucial in your match, that, that you kind of have to grind it out, hit fairways, get your birdies, and hopefully some pars to keep moving on. All right, let's talk a little strategy. If you've never done this before, this scoring is a little unique, and like the Ryder, they do this for. So yeah, I guess the Presidents, the Riders, where it's not the old birdie, bogey, double bogey, birdie consecutive streak. It's different. So it's all about holes won and lost pretty much, or halved. And of course, we need guys, the more they play, the more, matches, hence getting out of their pool is huge. And if somehow you get, within your DFS, if you have 3 or 4 guys getting into the weekend, you should do very well. It's very hard. But anyways, if we take a look at this, the big thing I'd call out, I mean, if your guy wins 3 holes in a row, he gets 5 points. But this is what you're going to see here. This is very unique. If somehow your guy does not lose a match in his, a big kicker of 7.5. And if you also, which I don't know if they show this, holes not played. So let's hypothetically, again, say, like with Scheffler beat Kisner at the very end last year, 4 and 3, he got all those holes not played points. So that'd be like almost like 6-7 points right there. So it's a little unique on that. Of course, you can look this up in Draftkings when you're looking, but just to give you an understanding of how the point system goes. And then to give you an understanding of kind of how this all breaks down. So as I mentioned, you're going to have 3 days of this kind of pool play, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You got 32 matches each day. I guess they play once a day. For some reason I was thinking, but yeah, they play 1 match a day. You're going to have some in the early, some in the afternoon. And then round 4 is when we get into single elimination. You got 8 matches, 16 players. That's going to be narrowed down to Saturday afternoon. We're going to get, down to 4 matches, 8 players. And then from there, you're going to have 4 guys left. You're going to have the guys trying to play for the championship or the, for the trophy, for the money, for all that. And then you've got, the guys like, I think, what was it last year? Connors and DJ. And it kind of felt like DJ, he played in it, but it didn't really feel like he was really trying. Of course, Corey Connors won that, if I remember correctly. So anyways, that's kind of the format, how it works out. And then this was just some notes I had. You had 3 multiple winners. Let's see here. You had Tiger Woods do it, Jason Day, Jeff Ogilvy. I mean, again, you got to remember this was under a different format, different course. So I don't know how much I'd worry about that. Top 10 overall seeds have won 9 out of the 14. Again, this isn't taken last year into consideration, but that's interesting. Defending champion has made quarterfinals 5 times. So that, with Kisner and Scotty. 2018, Kisner only runner-up to win the following year. And then, well, wait a minute. Scotty Scheffler, of course, was a runner-up, and then he won. So that was kind of interesting. You've seen Kisner do it, now Scheffler. So who was a runner-up? Well, it would be Kisner again, and I'm not worried about that. Only one of the final 4 golfers was seeded in the top 30 in 2021. Billy Horschel was seeded number 32. So that goes to the chaos. So again, we read that again. In 2021, only one of the final 4 golfers was seeded in the top 30. What that means is 29 down did not make it to the finals. So kind of interesting. Okay, so as I mentioned, I did tweet out this. You're going to want to go and fill out. I don't know what you win, to be honest. I have no idea. But this is a good way to build your teams. And before you touch anything on DFS, you need to go through and make your picks because there is a strategy to this. And so when this first came out, and I'm not saying this still happens, I feel like people have gotten a lot more savvy. Of course, you have a lot more people covering this event now and giving you, the help and the guidance. But, before you would just kind of like look through DFS and you just start picking guys that you like, and filling out your teams. Well, if you had them all, like, say you picked Scotty Scheffler and Tom Kim and somehow Alex Noren, well, right there you just killed 2 of your guys. So, of course, there is some strategy to this. And so you can see you got 4 main quadrants, a lot like what you do for March Madness basketball. And, there's kind of a thought process where you say, well, I'll take Scotty Scheffler here and then down here because you want out of this grouping and this grouping to have a guy hopefully make each to get in. Now, you can load up one side. Hopefully, it gives you a better shot to get, into the finals. There's all that. But typically, if you want my opinion of how I do it, I kind of break it up equally. And what I mean by that is maybe I'll have 4 guys coming out of this side, 2 coming out of here. Maybe I do 3 and 3. But for sure, I've always got a guy coming out of each of these 4 quadrants, maybe a little bit more. So long story short, you just really have to kind of think about what you're doing when you're making your picks on DFS. And like I said, the best advice I can give you, do this bracket first, get the guys you like. I'm going to show you my 1A, and I'm going to talk about 1B, and that's how I'll build mine, and whatever happens, happens out of that. But I haven't actually did this bracket yet, but I wanted to kind of visually show you. And again, that's, there's a lot of different strategies. Like I said, I've heard guys load up on one side that gives you better shots of getting maybe the final 2 to get the guy in. But if you really want an opportunity of winning it all, I think it's 200K, whatever it is, in the big GPP, right? You need guys coming in for both sides. I mean, of course, ultimately, you'd have these top 4 guys, and if you have that, you pretty much have won. All right, so from a custom stat model, what I did, of course, I still got the how to win. Of course, you got the Billy Ho there holding that trophy, but give me my stroke gain analysis ranking, how I'm building mine. And number 1, I mentioned I'm working my way from the green back to the tee. Putting number 1, and then inside 10 feet. I mean, literally, Billy Ho was just talking about this on the Golf Channel earlier, and just said, the one thing that why I was successful is how well I was putting inside 10 feet. In match play, it's all about making the pressure putts inside 10 feet. And then the next thing is short game. Short game actually is around the green and putting, so it's kind of, I'm really emphasizing the putting here. Approach, now, you can make that argument. Well, if I hit it within 5 feet on every approach shot, I don't have to worry so much about the short game and the putting. Well, that's not going to happen. Now, of course, we want guys with good irons, but it's still going to come down, if you watch a lot of match play, putting and stroking. I mean, the reason why Kisner won in his past was he didn't out ball strike the guy. He literally just out pissed him off, as in he looked like he's chipping where this guy's got a 10-foot putt, whoever he's playing against, and he chips it in, or or drains a 30-footer, and it just, you start to get under someone's skin, or like, I can't get this guy out of here. Those are the guys, that grinders, that win these kind of events. All right, so approach, fairways gained, sand saves. I mentioned there's a ton of sand. I don't know why that came in there, but proximity to pin. I usually have a couple of these. I had 75 to 100 and 100 to 125. Again, I kind of wanted to slim this down, emphasize on the one that I think is going to be more important. I think 100 to 125. I wanted to look at, you got 11 par 4s. So let's look at guys that gain strokes on that. You got these par 3s, 3 of them at 175 to 200. I mentioned 17s at 150. And then birdie or better, I actually made a change here. This is actually, should say, ball striking. So the model that I'll be showing you, I did ball striking, because the way I look at it, if you do all this very well, you're going to get these opportunities. And the guys that typically over and over do these things will get the opportunities, also have more birdies. So I wanted to kind of reemphasize the ball striking. Okay, so if you're curious, who's been really good in the past at playing at match play? And this is last year, I accumulated all this. So I want to call that out, that it didn't bring in, and you're going to see some of the guys that are not even in, of course, that went to live or whatever. But I already had this, and so I said, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and show that. So if you're curious, who have winning records that are playing as, of course, Kisner, we talked about 16 wins, 6 losses, I think one half or one tie. And this isn't taken in last year, so it's even more than that. Of course, Matty Kuchar, past winner, 13, 4-4. Louis, we don't have to worry about. Sergio, we don't have to worry about. DJ, we don't have to worry about. Alex Noren, funny enough, though you probably didn't know, actually has a really good match play record. Now, you're also going to hear, and I'm not saying I disagree, but Europeans, they play, since they're very young, and amateur and all the way up, they play a ton of match play. They are very used to this format, hence why they've won so many freaking Ryder Cups over us. So just a little note to self on that. Hence, Alex Noren is a European. Bubba Watson, don't worry about him. We got Rahm, also probably give him a couple more wins from last year, 10, 5, and 3. Ian Poulter, don't need to worry about him. Jordan Spieth, I don't know what he did last year, but anyways, 9, 5, and 3. And again, you can notice guys with really good short game and, can get that luck sack putter, which, Jordan has luck sacked a lot of things, not too far off like a Billy Ho. You got JT, 9, 9, and 1. Patrick Reed, don't have to worry about him. Paul Casey, nope. Kevin Na, nope. Billy Horschel has had a good record. Tommy Fleetwood, playing good golf. Also European. Terrell Hatton, one of the first bets that I made at 40 to 1, so I'll let you in on that. No have to worry about Koepka or Leishman, and then the last is Cantlay. Now, if you're curious about guys who had losing records, now again, this was going into last year. Berger, still waiting to see if he's ever going to show up again, but Fitzpatrick, funny enough, which European, great short game, but his game's a mess right now, so I'm not too worried about him. Hideki, that kind of makes sense right now. There shows a great ball striker, but and good around the green, but typically the putter is a problem. Webb Simpson just hasn't done well, and also, like I said, his game is very suspicious with a slight hint of showing something. Shane Lowry, that's shocking to me because everything that Shane does, it's typically a good putter, a European, but it is what it is. Siwoo Kim, now this is kind of odd because he's a Pete Dye specialist, but I don't know if Siwoo Kim played in this last year. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I actually do like Siwoo Kim this time around. He's gotten better with the putter. He's played good golf. Of course, he's a Pete Dye. He's won on every Pete Dye course there is. And I like his game where it's at. So, Bern Wiesberger, don't have to worry about him. Nope. I'm just going through the guys we don't have to worry about. Nope. Corey Connor, so I think he had 3 wins, so he's technically 3-3 now because, right, he made it to the semifinals. Munoz gone. Funny enough, my buddy Russ Henley. I always think his game should work here, but his putter's just been crap. But he's got great irons, not bad around the green. Morikawa, I think he actually, did he make it out of his pool last year? I think he did, but neither here or there. His record's a little better than that. Seabez, which another one I think would be a great fit, but his irons and off the tee can be a little suspicious. Just typically the putter and around the green is what saves him. Killer Keith, but playing great golf. Victor Hovland, Kokrak, no need, and then Bradley. So again, there's some guys that doesn't have as much, and there's a little bit of information missing, but this was all summed up for last year, and so I thought, you know what, I'll share it with you guys. All right, so with all that said, I did, of course, put a custom stat model together, and we talked already a bit about this, and I'm looking at the past 24 rounds. I always keep it a little more recent. I don't believe in pulling guys from 6 to 8 months ago because so much changed in the golf swing from that time. And you can see my weighting, putting at 15%, short game, again, that's around the green and putting at 15%. So 30% of the model weighted around the green and putting. And then I got another, so I take that back, 35% because I'm also adding in that 5 to 10 foot range. Fairways gained at 15, approach at 20, that proximity 1 to 125 at 5, sand saves, par 3, par 4s, and then ball striking here at the end. Like I said, at one time it was birdie or better, but I kind of said, you know what, if I can go even more on the ball striking side, that's bringing off the tee and, of course, the irons into play, combining. That's what I want to go with. And I like the way what came out. So this is looking at the past 6 tournaments, 24 rounds of golf these guys have played, and there's no filters on. And with that, it came out with Max Homa, who I think, you know, everything Max does. Of course, he's, you know, beat Finau in a playoff. He's won some playoffs. The guy's a grinder. His game has been amazing. His putter over, like, I think the, you know, at TPC Sawgrass did not go as well, but I'm not worried about that. Of course, Scotty Scheffler. Now, I bet him, I think it was during the Players, and I got him at, I think it was 15 to 1, something like that. Of course, he's at 8 to 1 now. I mentioned Jason Day won this back in 2016, I think the inaugural event here, but he's been playing amazing. The putters, everything is really good. That's kind of interesting. And Terrell Hatton, I told you, was also, he's already down to 28 to 1. He was 40 to 1 prior. I got John Rahm, Ricky Fowler, Sungjae Im, Xander, Chris Kirk, Denny McCarthy, Hoagie, Finau, Cantlay, Hadwin, and then Siwoo comes in at the bottom. Again, this is under recent form against this model, the top 15 guys out of 64. Okay, so typically this is where I would do the history at Austin Country Club, but we don't have stroke gain data for that because these events typically don't go 18 holes, and I don't even know if ShotLink data is being tracked. I'm hoping, because of course we're going to want to be able to track these guys if they're not getting coverage, but neither here or there. Because of that, I did pull up the Pete Dye filter, which will bring in courses like Harbor Town, TPC Sawgrass, PGA West, I believe, a bit some of my comparable courses. But if you're curious who's done well on those tracks, which I think there is some, you know, relative to it because of how Pete Dye kind of sets his course up, always visually challenging you, and typically, you know, fits the more strategic, I'd say, again, plotters than it does the bombers. But we've seen some bombers do well. So Corey Connors, who had a really good showing last year, shows up number 1, and that's he's 80 to 1. Terrell Hatton, Seabez, Sungjae Im, Hadwin, Shane Lowry, Fitzy, Kuchar, Fleetwood, Morikawa, Xander, Henley, Scheffler, Bradley, Harmon. Again, this is looking at only Pete Dye courses or the last 6 tournaments they would have played on those courses. And again, examples of where they played at RBC Heritage or the Players. All right, so the one thing that is crucial in match play, of course, is who's got the best short game. And again, this is taking in around the green, so chipping, and also the putting. And it's no shocker, Matt McNeely comes up number 1 because really that's how the guy's been making cuts and doing what he's been doing is gaining 9 or 10 strokes with the putter. His off the tee, he's got length, but it's a little, you know, spread all over. And then the approach, is not the greatest. But with that said, he's 90-1. Jason Day is number 2. You got Rob, Griffin, Burnsy. Again, been putting and chipping well. And we did get to see some ball striking come back at Valspar. Taylor Montgomery, if you look at his putting stats, they almost look identical to Matt McNeely. So, funny enough, I am interested in playing and betting Montgomery for whatever reason. I just can't get there on McNeely. I don't know why. Because the way I look at it, they're both pretty similar. I think Taylor Montgomery might be a little bit, no, they're almost identical. If you look at fairways gained, if you look at approach, if you look at all their stats, they are like almost, except you can say McNeely is 1-1-1, and you got Montgomery's second in putting, 6th in short game, and 3rd from 5 to 10 feet. So I don't know. I might have to maybe just swap those guys in and out from a DFS play. But right now, I have nothing going on McNeely. Andrew Putnam, we'll look at him on the betting side. Aaron Wise, Nick Taylor, Homa, Kirk, Justin Suh, Tommy Fleetwood, Denny McCarthy, Scotty Scheffler. That is your top 15 best short game over the last 6 tournaments or 24 rounds played. All right, so then the next thing is putting. Like I said, you're going to see right off the bat, Matt McNeely and Montgomery come up number 1. And if you go dig through their stroke game putting, it's ridiculous what they've done over the last 6-7 tournaments. But this is looking at Bermuda only. I did not do one with just any surface because it is going to be Bermuda greens. And if you're interested, again, over the past 24 rounds on Bermuda, you got McNeely, Montgomery, Burns, Rahm, Putnam, Wise, Griffin, Hatton, Herbert, Taylor, Finau, Noren, Victor Perez. That's probably a little older data, so just side note on that. Chris Kirk, and then Jason Day. An Wise putter, as of recent, has been not good. So I'm shocked that he's still kind of holding. But again, I don't even know how much he played at Florida. I don't know if he played all of them, but it's got to be pulled. He had a stint there where he figured out how to putt for a bit, and then I feel like he's kind of lost that. Okay, now the most crucial that I believe is that inside 10 feet putt. And if you want to know the best McNeely right now, again, this was looking at the past 6 tournaments, 24 rounds. Andrew Putnam, Montgomery, Burns, Straka, Fitzy, Herbert, Day, Kitayama, Hatton, Power, Nick Taylor, Noren, Davis, Minwoo Lee. Again, look at the past 6 tournaments that these guys played on Bermuda, and we're looking at the putt from 5 to 10 feet. Who is sinking those 10-footers? So from a comp course side, again, this is, some of these are Pete Dyes, some of the way they play, but RBC Heritage, it's kind of funny. That course, I mentioned this 1,000 times if you've been with me, that the hurricanes took out a lot of the trees. It kind of opened that course up more. But in its day, it was a very tight, very strategic plotter course. But guys that, have actually, like last year, if I remember, it was like Cam Young and Cam Davis, like all the bombers actually showed up in 2022, which was a little unique. I mean, Dustin Johnson had a chance to win there and then kind of fell apart on Sunday. So, I mean, again, if you got length and accuracy, well, you've got a weapon there. So you also got TPC Southwind. I also brought in Wailea. It's a par 70, very close on the yardage side. It's Bermuda. It's a very tight track. So I'm like, well, if I'm putting these courses in, then I might as well plug in Wailea. Also, of course, PGA National that we just saw. You have to club down off the tee, as you've seen. You have to really hit striker ball. And, of course, chipping and putting is key there. And then TPC Sawgrass also. So all these tracks fit very well. I like them from a comparable side. Maybe the player fields and some are better. So, like the Players, the FedEx St. Jude, like RBC Heritage, you kind of hit or miss. I don't know if that was an elevated event. I think it is elevated this year. So should be a really good field there. But, Sony Open, probably a little weaker. And the Honda, as we all know, was pretty weak. Anyways, with that said, against those courses over the past 6 tournaments played there, 24 rounds, Seb Straka, number 1. And that makes sense. I mean, right, Seb won at the Honda. I kind of had this going with the Players, and I think he missed the cut. So I don't know how much I'm buying into that. I mean, but it is what it is. I mean, you can see everything he did very well in these 6 tournaments on these courses. You got Shane Lowry, which, I said it's amazing his match play is not better because he has had a chance to win last year at RBC Heritage, had a chance to win the Honda, has showed up at the Players in 2022, I believe it was. You got Terrell Hatton, who's done well in Florida. You got Kuchar, Morikawa, Matsuyama, Henley, Cam Davis. I mentioned the chance, was in contention at the RBC. Denny McCarthy, Hadwin, Putnam, McNeely, Connors, Alex Noren, and Adrian Meronk, which, that's only 4 rounds of golf. So I would kind of cut that one out. I don't look at Adrian Meronk as a guy that I want. crazy distance, and I just haven't seen enough. I don't think he's got that great a short game for what I've seen so far. So we'll see. Okay, now let's talk about the groups. So here's the actual brackets that were put out at 12 o'clock Eastern today. And in Group 1, you've got Scotty Scheffler, Tom Kim, Alex Noren, and Davis Riley. Pretty good group. I really like Tom Kim and Scotty Scheffler, so, no shocker. I'm going to go with Scotty Scheffler, and my 1B would be Tom Kim. And I don't think I need to explain on the Scotty Scheffler side. Tom Kim, of course, the President's Cup, you saw what he did there, winning some, very crucial matches. The guy hits fairways, he hits greens, and if the putter goes, that's the key word, right? He won at the Wyndham, he won at Shriner, so both on Bermuda. Watch out. But I also had pretty good expectations for him at the Players, and off the top of my head, I don't remember where I think he made the cut, but I don't think he did that great. But anyways, that'd be my 1A, 1B. And you're going to notice that, I took the favorite on these first two, but other than that, you're going to see some kind of shockers, I think. So easy to use these guys from a DFS build. Out of number 2, I am going with Rob. Billy Horschel's game is a disaster. I told you that he had swing changes, he worked on it, and then he scrapped them. So his game's probably coming back a little bit. Even how he won the year he won was a little and then I got to watch a bit of him at the Valspar. And yeah, just the putter's not where it was. His ball striking's not where it was. So it was pretty simple to cut Billy out. Killer Keith, actually, I don't know, between these two guys could be a coin flip. I feel like Ricky's putter's actually made a bit of a comeback. And Killer Keith, it's just hard to think of Killer Keith as a decent putter. Typically, it's always been length off the tee, okay with the irons, not the greatest putter, okay around the green. So I guess if I had to pick my 1B here, gun to the head, I'd go Ricky Fowler, I guess, out of Group 2. So if Rahm didn't make it, but I mean, I honestly feel like he's got one of the easier groups, but hey, you never know. All right, Group 3, I'm going to be going with Denny McCarthy, which I told you, he's going to go with Rory now. Nope. We saw Rory struggle with the driver. Now, I've heard he might be coming in with a shorter driver. I heard he went to Augusta, did some practice rounds there. He's hitting the ball great, yada, yada, yada. But I don't see this as a really good fit for Rory. Also, the putter, since his win, over on the DP World Tour back in December, and also, of course, he had, won the FedEx Cup. He won, what was that, the Zozo or the CJ Cup? It doesn't matter. He had, his fall event win too. I mean, the guy was putting great, but I haven't seen the putter yet. So, again, not even so much about what Rory, but also where he struggled last year was also in his pitching wedge game, the 120 yards. So, I don't know. Everything I see, I'm going to be no. Keegan Bradley, I mentioned, I think, yeah, he pulled out of the Valspar, right? So, we don't know why, but again, note to self, anybody that pulled out of last week, I'd keep an eye on that's in this week because you do get a nice little paycheck if you literally show up, tee it, hit a ball, and say, I'm out. So he would be one that I'd be a little nervous about. And then Scott Stallings, he's so streaky. He's got distance, and he's a very streaky putter. But I'm going with Denny McCarthy. I looked through the stats. Denny, of course, one of the best putters on tour, has been for multiple years. Good short game. The ball striking has been better this year, but he has had spikes, ups and downs. So I don't know. Out of that group, if I got to pick, Bradley typically can't putt. His putting's been better, but I don't trust his putting. I don't trust Stallings, and I don't trust Rory. So pretty simple for me to go with McCarthy. And then you go over to Group 4, a little tougher, I guess. I mean, Patrick Cantlay game has been coming back. For a bit there, I was telling you guys, and I always forget this, but never really get too worried about a guy's golf game in the beginning of the year. And it's not because of rust. It's because they're trying out a bunch of new drivers and irons and stuff. And that's what was going on with Patrick Cantlay. If you saw, he was really rough the Tournament of Champions in the beginning of the year. It also was like a switch flicked, and it wasn't like something different with a swing. It was, he went back to equipment that he was used to. And so, I mean, no problems there. But again, I'm going to go a little off. I'm going to go Nick Taylor. Of course, had a chance to win at the Waste Management. And what does this guy do? This guy hits fairways, pretty good with the irons, and a good short game and putter. I mean, not too far off. He always kind of reminds me a bit of Adam Hadwin in his game, my own personal opinion. But I mean, KH Lee, good, solid all-around game. Brian Harman, I just haven't seen it. If I remember right, Brian Harman had a really nice fall, and since then I haven't seen it. So again, I gotta, you can't go with all the first guys, and I don't want to. I want to go with the guys. My narrative, my brand is I want to work my way back. And the reason why Rahm and Scheffler are number 1 and number 2 isn't because they hit the ball the farthest off the tee. It's because of what they've done, short game and putting. And then irons have been really good. The driver, they can survive, these guys, if you have all those other talents. So then, like I said, if I got to pick over who drives the ball better or who puts the ball better in this kind of format, I'm going with the guys who putt better. Okay, moving on to Group 5. Probably no shocker here. I'm going with Homa. It was one of my early bets, and it was actually probably the easiest grouping to come out of. So if you're going to bet anybody, I think he's 16 to 1, 18 to 1, something like that. At least he was. He's got the easiest group to come out of. I mean, Kisner, I'm sorry. If it happens, then it is what it is. Then we'll go back to the horses for courses forever. Forget form. Just chuck it out the window. But Kevin Kisner has been trash for the last, and I have nothing against the guy, but his game has just been junk for like the last 2 years. He's had little tiny bits, not too far from a Webb Simpson, to be honest. But his putter, I guess it was his crucial weapon, and I haven't seen it. So Justin Sub been playing great golf, but his putter is very streaky. We saw that happen. Players, I forgot now, where his Sunday he couldn't make a putt to save his life. So I'm not, like I said, no shocker for me. I'm going Homa. Homa's my guy. And then this one here is also, I feel, is pretty interesting, right? I'm going with Hoagie. I don't feel like Xander's game's been that great. His putter has not been that great. Aaron Wise has been bad. Cam Davis has showed us one tournament that he's even made the cut. Now, he has done well in, Pete Dye courses. It's a great ball striker, but his putter also, if you take the totality of his career, not good. So, funny enough, the best iron player and hits a ton of fairways is Tom Hoagie. And where I'm going with this is that I'm not saying he's the best putter, but give me that out of fairways hit, it's Hoagie. Out of these guys, out of irons, it's him. And he can, make some putts and around a green. So little shocker maybe out of Group 6, but that's who I'm going with. And then Group 7, this would probably be a super shocker, but Will Z, I haven't seen it. The game still, you got to remember, right? He rebuilt his complete golf swing to get the pressure off his back, and you could tell it's not there. And then, oh, by the way, he can't make a putt typically under 10 feet. So, nope. I would literally go with Ryan Fox, Harris English, or Andrew Putnam. And then it was kind of just due diligence. So, Harris English, we saw a pretty good outing. I'm getting all these tournaments confused in the Florida swing, but he's still very wayward. And then literally I think one day came out and shot like 5-6 under. Next day he came out and shot like 3 or 4 over. So I don't think Harris is there yet. So no problem to write that off. And then Ryan Fox, I look at him as more of a bomber. He's a good player. He's European. He's probably played a lot of match play. He was pretty bombed. I think he was hoping to make, I think it was the President's Cup, and then just didn't do enough. But, I'm going to go with, kind of a long where, again, what does this guy do the best? And he was close to winning. If you guys remember this past fall, he was just hitting great irons. He's already always had a really good short game, good putter. So again, I told you, if I am in a group that I'm kind of like, I'm going to take the best putter. And the best putter, I mean, Harris English at one time, it still is a really good putter. But his overall game, tee to green, is not there. So, all right, then Group 8, you've got, an amazing ball striker out of Victor Hovland. You got Chris Kirk, who just won at, the Honda? Is that what he just won? I told you, these are all blended together. And Siwoo Kim, and then Matt Kuchar. Now, believe this or not, Victor Hovland was removed. It was a short game in his putter, just not, no. And even his ball striking has been a little hit or miss for Victor. Kuchar, has showed up. He's had some good tournaments. This is his kind of format. So this is a difficult one. I'll tell you right now, because Chris Kirk, Kuchar, and Kim, they all have been playing really well. But I'm going to go with the Pete Dye, the recent win at, I'm going to forget where he won. Sony, which is one of my comparable courses. And he's actually been putting well. He switched his putter. I mentioned this, start of the new year. He's always had a pretty good around the green game. And of course, from a ball striking perspective, very solid. He's been hitting a ton of fairways. I'm going to go with Siwoo Kim. Yep, I got to do it. So that is out of Group 8 for me. Oh, and then B would be probably Chris Kirk. And if you're asking me a B out of these guys, I forgot to be mentioned in my Bs. I'm giving you my A's. That's a tough one. I guess Xander. If I didn't go with Max, I would probably go, I can't do Kisner. I actually might go Hideki. I mean, if the putter gets hot, because he's actually been good around the greens. The putter just shows up here. There also won the Sony, if we remember correctly, from 2 years ago. And then here, I'd probably go with Harris English. So I don't know if I did the 1Bs. Let's see here. So I did my 1B would be Tom Kim. My 1B for Group 2 would be, that's a Ricky Fowler, I believe. Group 3, it would be, I guess, Rory. I didn't go with Denny just because I don't know about Keegan, where he's at and why he pulled out of the Valspar. Group 4, I think I already mentioned. So we got Nick Taylor here, but it had to be Patrick Cantley. I guess if I wasn't going Nick Taylor, it'd be Patrick Cantley. All right, that gets us caught up. So you got my 1As, 1Bs. All right, moving on to groups 9 through 12. And you got Morikawa, Day, Svensson, Perez. This one was a little difficult because of how well Svensson's been playing, and he's been putting. And he had the win not too long ago on Bermuda at the RSM Classic. But I'm actually going to go with Jason Day. I mean, the guy's been playing amazing golf. I told you he won here in 2016. And, I mean, from all stroking and his putter, everything's firing. Collin Morikawa, right? We keep seeing, we'll see that 18 holes, or, you know, at the Tournament of the Century, we saw 54 holes of great golf, terrible Sunday. And then I'm going to forget, I think it was at the Players, right? He came out, I think, led 7 under, if I remember correctly. So, I don't know. I mean, it's Morikawa's putting is just so Jekyll and Hyde that I'm just going to go with someone that's stable, and I'll go with Day out of that group. I guess my 1B, actually, funny enough, I'd go with Svensson. As I had to build my DFS lineup, so probably I plug in Svensson. I probably will plug him in a little bit. This is kind of one where I was not impressed at all, this field. I mean, I didn't see a clear winner. So, well, technically you'd say, hey, Guru, you said you're working your way from the green back. Well, that's Christian Bezuidenhout. But the problem is Christian Bezuidenhout can be really bad off the tee and with the irons. And so I can't do that. Meronk, I just don't have him in the picture of what I'm looking for. Now you give me a 7,700 yards, you know, give me Tournament of Champions, give me Kapalua, I'm all over Adrian Meronk. So it gets down to Kurt Kitayama and Tony Finau, and I'm terrified of Tony Finau inside of 10 foot. So I'm like, I'll go with Kitayama. And, you know, we just saw what he did, of course, winning at the Arnold Palmer. That was on Bermuda. The guy is a good ball striker. And again, if he can keep that putter, what he's doing. Also, he's kind of an aggressive putter, which I kind of like. I'm going to go ahead and go with him. This, for me, was kind of interesting, this group 11, because, I mean, Fitzy, I think, has just been terrible. So your top guy's out. Minwoo Lee, right? We just saw him have a good showing and had a chance to win Players. I keep probably saying it, but I'm pretty sure that was a tournament where I think he was leading also in the top, coming in with, he was in the final group with Scheffler, right? So, I mean, you can make an argument there. Sahith Theegala, you know, this course I don't think is built for him. Now, he is going to get the tee down, right? Again, he's not going to be hitting a driver, but I like his putting. I don't mind his short game. He's so wayward off the tee at times. I just can't get that out of my head. So the guy that out of this group that hits a ton of fairways, pretty good with the irons, and won last year in Texas, of course, is JJ Spawn, won the Valero. That was a Bermuda. Now, again, kind of a shocker, but the guy just plots around. And if the putter does what it can do, I mean, it has been at times not the greatest recently, but he's had good success on Bermuda greens. I think that'd be my guy. If I had to pick a 1B, I guess I'd go Minwoo Lee. Again, just terrified of what Theegala. Now, again, if 700 yards or, you know, 7,700 yards and it's a bomber's paradise and it's wide open, give me Theegala. Okay, and then group 12. This might be a little bit of a shocker, but Jordan Spieth, you got Shane Lowry, Taylor Montgomery, and Mackenzie Hughes. This was, I think, one of the better groups and was the hardest groups. And the more I just sat there and thought about it is, okay, Taylor Montgomery, a lot like McNeely, right? I mean, the guy he won some kind of like the greatest putter in the world championship. I mean, the guy, you don't get to see enough of him, but I've never seen someone putt as well as this guy. And I track him a lot because I play him in Showdown, and he'll literally have like a 60, 70 footer for eagle, and there's no way, and the guy's making it. Like, it's ridiculous what this guy does with a putter. Of course, he's also got length. His irons are kind of You know, I'm not worried about the length. What I'm thinking about is he's going to be hitting the driving irons. You know, again, just a great putter. And Spieth, you'd be like, well, great, he's amazing short game. And look, he just putted well. Well, I just, again, feel like Spieth's game is so up and down. In match play, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a guy that just keeps applying the pressure. So that's that. I mean, actually, Shane Lowry is a guy that I mentally would go, but he didn't have the floor to swing that I was looking for. He doesn't have the track record here. So I'm going to say no there. But, you know, where I'm going with all this is I really honestly feel like anyone could come out of this group. I don't have this super strong conviction because I even like Mackenzie Hughes. I've always said he's kind of a cheap Cam Smith, right? I mean, what does he do best? Putt, chip. And then, of course, he had his win. That was early in the fall. Was that the Fortinet? I don't remember where he won. But he did have a win not too long ago. And he was hitting, you know, striking the ball really well, good with the irons. But that's kind of went wayward. But he's still a bit, you know, like Putnam, where he's always got, or Seabez, if everything else goes well. So I like Mackenzie Hughes too. So I did some betting in this group, but long story short, I'm going to pick Taylor Montgomery and see, where it goes. All right. And then the last 13 out of 16. This one, again, I mean, who knows? But I mean, we saw Sam Burns play better golf, but it's been so bad. So I was able to no thank you, Burns. Adam Scott, he's lost the irons, but been good with the putter. Then Adam Hadwin literally just missed the cut at the course that he's won at. And everybody, I didn't even put that with Fitzpatrick. Actually, I think he was more the upset of missing the cut at the Valspar. He was 25% owned in the big game. So I'm going to go Seamus Power. He's got that game that, again, typically really good with the putter, pretty good around the green. If the irons fire, watch out, and he hits a lot of fairways. So, yeah, Seamus Power for me out of Group 13. If I had to pick a B, it'd be Adam Hadwin. Then out of Group 14, Terrell Hatton. No shocker. I mean, I think this is why his odds have dropped. Lucas Herbert is actually a good putter, but his rest of his game could be so hit or miss. He won, is it Corrales or the Bermuda? It doesn't. He won one of the vacation swing courses is his only win. But I mean, the guy, he can get hot and score. I mean, Ben Griffin would actually be my 1B. I'm a huge Russ Henley fan. He's amazing irons, and good at hitting fairways. It's just his short game and putting has been not good. But of course, he had a chance to win the Sony, and then he just won Mayakoba in Mexico. So I don't know. I mean, definitely, I guess if I had to rate it, it'd be Hat number 1 is playing amazing golf. He's pretty decent in these kind of events. I guess my 1B would be Ben Griffin, but he's never been in this format. Maybe my 1B would be Russ Henley, then Griffin, then Lucas Herbert. Okay, this one. I was in between Straka and Corey Connors because no one in this, I mean, you got a bunch of rookies. That's another thing, right? I mean, this is, I think they mentioned for a WGC Dell match play, it's one of the most rookie-filled events, as in typically you got a ton of guys that have played in this kind of format. So it's going to be interesting how some of these guys do. I mean, Cameron Young has never played in it. I don't know if Seb Straka, Davis Thompson's never played in it. I mean, you go through a lot of these guys. I think there's 20 newcomers to the field that have never played in this event. But long story short, I showed you how well Straka has done on Pete Dye courses, but his putter also, Cameron Young, I mean, elite off the tee, elite ball striker, but he had one showing with the putter here. Again, not going to remember the tournament, but recently, and didn't pull it out, but, was looking good going into Sunday. I'm going to go with Corey Connor. I mean, the guy just hits fairways, he hits greens. He also showed up with the putter here recently on Bermuda. And that's typically where he does his damage. He also won the Valero. So, yeah, that's what I'm going to go with. And if I had to pick a 1B, it'd be Seb Straka. And then the last group, you got Sungjae Im, Tommy Fleetwood, JT Poston, Matt McNeely. And you guys probably think, well, he's got to go with Mav. He went with Montgomery. Well, no, I'm not. Again, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense because if you're looking for guys that have been just ridiculous with the putter, it's been McNeely. But you've got a lot of good putters here. You got JT Poston, right? I mean, that's kind of his game too, right? He won at the John Deere. And just had that kind of back-to-back weeks. He could have won, I think, what was the other one? The Travelers. They had a chance to win back-to-back. And he was just firing like he never had with irons. And a pretty good showing here recently at the Valspar. But neither here or there. I'm actually going to go with Sungjae Im. And this took a little bit, right? I mean, Tommy played a ton of match play, right? And has done very well in match play. At least if you look at it from a rider perspective. If you think of Mollywood, was Francesco Molinari when they teamed up together at Fleetwood and won every match. Sungjae Im, he didn't play the Valspar, so he's a little rested. I mean, I'm looking at things, JT Poston just played Matt McNeely. So Sungjae Im from a ball striking perspective is the best. He's also really good around the green. It's the putter, I'm not going to lie, makes me a little nervous with him. I have seen him go nuts on Bermuda. So, I guess Sungjae Im would be number 1. If I had to go number 2, I guess I'd go with Tommy. Again, this for me was the toughest group, was Group 16 to pick the guy I want coming out. So this would be the one that I will probably either kind of stay away from a pick side, or, we'll rotate quite a few of these guys. So, all right. Now, with all that said, real quick, my betting card, yes, you're going to see there's quite a few bets, but because I do feel like there's, as I always state, there is an ability for an upset to win this, hence Kisner, Kuchar, even Billy Ho when he won was, I think, 50-1, whatever he was. So with that said, I already mentioned I bet Mahoma was one of the early ones, 20-1. I got Scotty Scheffler, I think it was 14-1 if you got him a week ago. Jason Day, 40-1. Chris Kirk, 90-1. Hoagie, 70-1. Siwoo Kim, 80-1. You can see the odds. Andrew Putnam, 180-1. Tom Kim, That was the tough. I think I said he would be if Scheffler didn't make it out. If Tom Kim putts, man, watch out. I like Ben Griffin. I already talked about JJ Spawn 100-1. Taylor Montgomery, I got him at actually 80-1. Power, I think I had him at 100-1. Hughes. So if you got some of these in earlier, that's funny. I noticed early this morning or even last night, it was, you could bet on this even a little while back. Some of you did better on it, some of you didn't. It was all whatever came out. So it was kind of like where these guys are going to fit in. And then Davis Thompson, 180-1. Yeah, I bet Henley. I've got to. I don't really think he's going to win this thing. But okay, so with that said, that's my betting card. If you're curious, I told you if I had to bet probably one. I like Homa, probably the best. I think Hoagies are interesting. And then, of course, some of these long shots, Tyler Montgomery, I think is interesting. But yeah, you can make a case. But you can also see if they ranked. I mean, funny enough, Davis Thompson's 62nd in my model. But again, he's had some success. What little bit we've seen of him on Pete Dye courses. All right, so that's it, guys. As always, I hope that helps you because this is a total different kind of DFS play than you're used to. It's different how they score. It's a different way you pick, different strategy. So again, the number one thing, or my top things to summarize would be it starts on Wednesday. So make sure you get your stuff done Tuesday night, unless you're an early riser. And the other thing would be make sure that you fill out the bracket first and then kind of create your player pool from that, like what I've kind of done, a 1B, a 1A, and that's how you do your DFS. And then you make up the decision of, do you want, at least one coming out of each quadrant, or do you want to load up? I usually, like I said, kind of go back and forth. I try to, load up one side, or you could look at what's an easier side to come out that you think. But when it all comes down to it, it's, I like what I pick, but within literally after the first round of matches, you just be like, okay, well, like March Madness, that's all dead. And hopefully one of my bets hit. So embrace the chaos. That's all I can say for this tournament. All right, do me the honor, click that like button, share with anybody else. If you've not subscribed, please subscribe. And hit me up on Twitter, as I always put out anything funny or informational from withdrawals or anything I see. I get that out to you guys ASAP. All right, guys. I am excited. I'm also trying to figure out if I'm going to do a Corrales Punta show, because I have made a few bets on that. Usually that wasn't the alternate tournament for this, so I think I have some stuff I could use for. So maybe I'll do a Corrales show tomorrow. If you're some of the betting is kind of interesting over there. I think Wyndham Clark is your number one odds guy, if I remember correctly, looking at the odds. So probably put a show off for that real quick for tomorrow, and that's it. If you have any questions, hit me up on YouTube comments. I'll talk to you guys later.